Good evening. You are with the Urban Debate tonight, and I'm Sahar Zaman. It is once again a classic argument that continues to come up each time we are hit by a natural disaster. The question of whether one needs to respect, protect, keep its distance in order to keep the environment safe, or go ahead with multiple development projects and how to strike that balance. This is what we're discussing once again tonight here in what has been seen in Uttarakhand that has led to the flash floods. The worst affected district there being Chamoli, in what is largely believed to be triggered by a GLOF, which is known as a Glacier lake outburst flood. But given the fact that this has happened mid-winter, that in fact has raised a stronger alarm. And in more lately, satellite pictures that now have been scrutinized already 24 hours after the incident occurred here, indicating that perhaps it wasn't a glacier breach. It could have been a landslide instead. While that is still being ascertained here, the concern for us is the repercussions of this. We are suffering from a loss of lives and a loss of infrastructure. Infrastructure that was built for the sake of development to bring about ease of living, but once again, at what cost? The death toll so far has gone up with 24 and with over 200 people that continue to remain missing. These are ongoing rescue operations that are still on non-stop on breakneck pace. The worst affected, as we said, are the hydro project at the Tapovan tunnel, which has remained blocked. Part of it has been cleared up by the army personnel. They've managed to inch in only just about 100 meters. There's a lot more that is still left here, and people, 30 plus people, about 34 believed to be trapped there in that tunnel. Other villages within the given district of Chamoli district here, 9 of those villages that have been entirely cut off and are still waiting to be evacuated out and be given those relief measures. Let's in fact get you further inputs here. And this is with respect to how the sequence of events of what is now largely being studied on what we expect really, or what we think really happened. So the first initial reports here that came in of a glacier breach, a glacier that caves in, a part of it that collapses and falls into the valley here, which led to the sudden surge in the water levels, drowning certain areas and causing those flash floods. This happened in the valley area and the Chamoli district in Uttarakhand. It soon led to massive destruction where villages were cut off, where several hydro project plants that have been impacted here as well. There were bridges that were entirely swept away because of the repercussions here, what was believed to be a glacier collapse here. And as we said, mammoth rescue operations that are still on. We're going to be playing out several of those ground reports here, right here tonight in just a bit. Efforts that are still on for tunnels to be cleared. Remember, local villagers here have complained for their families who are trapped in these tunnels, who are working at these hydro projects here, that equipment that needs to be used should be far more heavy, and this could have sped up the relief operations. So they're already raising questions. Remember, each time a disaster happens, there is of course understandable anger and anguish in people in pointing fingers at the concerned authorities and the government and questioning the relief operations. But that doesn't take away from the efforts that are on by the ITBP, the SDRF, the NDRF, the army personnel who have worked overnight, non-stop, 24 hours to save and pull out as many people while they're still breathing, as many people be pulled out while they're still alive. But let's also play out the map of the area, the areas that have been impacted with this disaster. We're going to be playing out that on your screens, and the damage that has been caused. And now this is first in bringing in the focus in Raini village. This is the epicenter of the disaster, and it is within Chamoli district, which is the worst affected district here in this, which then further had a domino effect and caused flash floods here in RISHIGANGA, Vishnuprayag, and as we were talking about, hydro projects that have been impacted here as well and have been destroyed entirely because of these floods. This is the hydro project on the RISHIGANGA that has been washed away. Remember, the RISHIGANGA valley, which is the worst affected here in this. Now, there are other cities in Uttarakhand which are still on high alert, on fears of water levels that could further rise. This is in Srinagar, which is on high alert, which is in Uttarakhand. In Haridwar, the alert has been given for Haridwar as well as Rishikesh. These are the cities that need to be careful right now while the situation is still being closely observed, closely monitored. But let's also play out the latest reaction for you that's coming from the Chief Minister here of the state. Times Network has exclusively spoken to the Uttarakhand Chief Minister Trivendra Radhav now, who's in fact now said that this wasn't caused with a glacier sliding in, breaking out and slipping down. It was caused in fact by a landslide and not because of the glacier. This is because satellite images that have been taken a few days ago have been scrutinized here, showing that there were no glaciers and no ice. Well, this is another theory, but now this has been confirmed by the Chief Minister that no, it wasn't a glacier, but it was a landslide instead. Take a listen in.
I'm in an exclusive interview with the Chief Minister of Uttarakhand, Mr. Trivendra Singh Rawat. Sir, how do you see this entire calamity? What exactly caused? What is the recent update that you can give to us on Times Now, to the viewers of Times Now?
देखिए, आज हम वैज्ञानिकों के साथ बैठे थे और जो सैटेलाइट इमेजरी यहाँ से मिली हैं, तो ये देखने में आया कि 3-4 दिन पहले यहाँ पर किसी तरह की कोई ग्लेशियर नहीं है। एक तो जो सबसे बड़ी बात सामने आई है आज, अभी तक हम ये सोच रहे थे कि ग्लेशियर टूटने से यह सब कुछ हुआ है। तो 3-4 दिन पहले, यानी 3-4 तारीख से पहले वहाँ पर कोई भी बर्फ भी नहीं थी। और 3-4 तारीख 5 तारीख में जो बर्फ गिरी है वो वहां पर थी, यानी कि आइस नहीं था, स्नो था। और एक टिगर पॉइंट है ऊपर, उस टिगर पॉइंट पर स्लाइड हुआ है। वो चट्टान है, साफ दिख रही है, और उसके स्लाइड होने से यहाँ जो लाखों मीट्रिक टन जो स्नो था वो स्लाइड हुआ। और ये आगे चल करके इसने ऋषिगंगा जो प्रोजेक्ट है, तपोवन जो निर्माणाधीन जो हमारा एक हाइड्रो प्रोजेक्ट था, उसको उसने नुकसान पहुंचाया और तमाम जो जनहानि हुई है। तो उसका कारण स्पष्ट हुआ है कि ये ग्लेशियर नहीं था, ये एक लैंडस्लाइड था। और जो अपने साथ काफ़ी वर्ग किलोमीटर, एग्जैक्ट मुझे ध्यान नहीं है, लेकिन उन्होंने ये भी बताया कितना वर्ग किलोमीटर में ये स्नो था। और वो साफ दिखता है कि फिर वो स्लाइड हुआ, क्योंकि घाटी बहुत सक्रिय है।
All right, we're going to be discussing this with our panel of experts in just a bit here. I'm sure a lot of them have their own point of view to say with respect to what the observations or findings here that have been coming on what the Chief Minister now has confirmed. That is only further going to be questioned, and where the rectification here can come in, if at all. But let's play out ground reports first to get you the image of the scale of the devastation that we're seeing yet again. Remember, Uttarakhand suffered from far more damaging floods at the cloudburst of 2013. This is relatively restricted, and we're hoping here and keeping our fingers crossed that the death toll doesn't go any further than what is being reported right now. In-ground inputs, Times Network's correspondent, my colleague Rakesh here, sending us this state of emergency operations now that are continuing here round the clock. And this is coming in from the control room in charge, Mr. Rahul Jugran, explaining further now the efforts that are being taken by different teams here. Remember, in every given natural disaster, time is of the essence. We're all the time racing against time to make sure people are rescued alive.
I'm here at the control room of State Emergency Operations Center, and as you can see here that live feeds are being monitored here. They receive live feeds from different centers. The different information is gathered from several agencies who are working for these search and rescue operations. There are different agencies like NDRF, ITBP, SDRF, and different levels. The different data and statistics are being received here, and then the information is passed on to another authorities. I have Mr. Rahul Jugran with me, who is in charge of this center. Sir, tell us more about this operation center. How do we operate from this?
Well, this is primarily functional on a 24/7 basis, and likewise in parallel we have the same emergency operation centers at the district level. along with the requisite manpower and the equipment. Primarily in case of any incident, the initial reports do come to the State Emergency Operations Center from the districts, and likewise they are shared with n number of agencies including MHA, NDMA and IDM and the state line departments, wherein whichever relevant department or other departments are required, the directions are given, or in case if they have any kind of requirement from the state oblique the center, then the communications are done in that line only.
Let's also get you some affected and anguished villagers' voices. This is coming in from Raini village, which is in the Chamoli district. Now, tragically and ironically, this is from where the origin of the Chipko movement started in the 70s that inspired the entire country on the concept of protecting every aspect of the environment. But here in the Chamoli village, in the Raini village, in fact, in Chamoli district, rescue operations are still underway. It is one of the worst affected villages here, where 11 bodies have already been pulled out.
We are right now present at Raini village, which is the initial site from where the glacier had an outburst, and this is where the glacier had bursted and the silt was broken into pieces, and the silt was carried till the next tunnel, which is the NTPC tunnel. This is what my video journalist Arjun Singh Rawat ji is right now showing you is the debris that came along with the outburst of the glacier, and the entire bridge that has been broken and has been carried forward by the pressure of the water. This entire bridge, which was connecting Raini village with the rest of the 13 villages towards China border side, they have now had a broken tie, and there is absolutely no way that villagers will be able to cross towards the rest of the 13 villages. These are rest of the 13 villages, or behind this mountain are the rest of the 13 villages till the China border, where there is absolutely no connectivity. But the good news is that there has been no damage to any of the villages situated on that side of the bridge, but the damage is of the bridge here that has been completely vandalized and damaged because of the outburst of the glacier. The rescue operations at Raini village have been carried out. There have been 3 dead bodies which have been recovered from this place, and in total 11 dead bodies have been recovered in the rescue operation from this place and tunnel number 2. And this is the rescue operation. If you can see, they're trying to clear the silt, they're trying to clear the debris that has been collected here overnight because it rained last night. But the officials and the administration have assured us that the water content and has been contained, the water levels have been contained, and there is nothing to fear about. The only thing that the entire administration or where the army has been pressed, the NDRF team have been pressed, is now in the rescue operation of close to 200 people who have gone missing because of the entire incident.
And sludge, mud and debris that has been seen here. This is on both banks of the RISHIGANGA as well as the Dhauliganga rivers here. Times Network Mohit is getting us further inputs here. This is once again one of the worst affected areas here, and the terrain that is making the rescue operations difficult at the moment.
On my right is RISHIGANGA. You can see it's completely black as of now due to the silt and the part of mountains and the part of RISHIGANGA dam that was completely devastated by this particular RISHIGANGA river. Now a part of Nanda Devi Glacier fell into this RISHIGANGA river and it completely created havoc. Now this is the place, this is the confluence of RISHIGANGA, and on my left side you see Dhauliganga. Now this is the place where both of these rivers meet, and then the devastation happened because the water from RISHIGANGA, which was also containing the water from the glacier of Nanda Devi, met Dhauliganga over here, and you can see there are still remains of devastation over here. You can see the trunk of trees, you can see debris all around. The river RISHIGANGA is nowhere to be seen. It's only silt, it's only debris, and that clearly shows what kind of devastation has happened yesterday. Now this is the point. This is the epicenter where RISHIGANGA meets Dhauliganga, and Dhauliganga went ahead and it damaged the part of NTPC's thermal power plant, where still many workers are trapped inside the tunnel.
And we're helping you get a better picture here of the other affected areas and how these rescue operations are challenging at the time, why they've continued 24 hours non-stop. This is on the other affected area, which is the Tapovan tunnel, where workers of the hydro project plant are still feared trapped here. And in fact, the army personnel on ground there as well, working non-stop. They've just about managed to clear up 100 meters, and there's lots more there further to inch in to pull out the workers alive. Mohit once again getting us those details from there.
We are right now reporting from Tapovan, and Tapovan is a place which was completely damaged by the floods that came in Dhauliganga and RISHIGANGA river yesterday. Now it's a very strategic location over here. I'll just show you around. That particular peak over there is the Nanda Devi peak. Now according to the officials, a glacier from that particular peak broke away and it fell into RISHIGANGA, which comes from the Rainy village sides. Now after the part of glacier fell into the particular river, the volume increased and Rainy village was completely washed away. Many bridges were washed away, and the RISHIGANGA power plant project was completely washed by the water. Now subsequently, the RISHIGANGA meets Dhauliganga, and when both the rivers met, the volume went up again, and Dhauliganga comes towards the Tapovan, and the NTPC plant was also damaged. This is the place where NTPC's Tapovan plant, many of the workers stuck inside the tunnel. Chief Minister of Uttarakhand, Singh Rawat, himself monitoring the situation. He's as of now still at that particular tunnel. He's monitoring. While the officials say the worst is over, the level of water has come down, but their main concern is that still many workers are trapped, many are, hence their safety is their prime objective. This particular river over here is Dhauliganga, filled with silt over here. You can see this during these times where season, you'll usually see the rivers of Uttarakhand are very clean, but this particular river is completely filled with silt, and then you can imagine how big the damage, the devastation would have been. But as of now, the officials are monitoring the situation. Many dead bodies have been found. Many are still missing. People from Rainy village say that many of their livestock, many people from their particular village are still missing. Now around 13 villages in totality have been completely cut off from road connectivity to the other parts of Uttarakhand.
And we have also spoken to some of the relatives of the missing workers, and these are workers who were at the NTPC plant, which is one of the biggest there in the state here. Now they allege, with their larger concern being, had the authorities been using heavy machinery right now, several more people could have been pulled out well in time. They're saying that these operations need to be expedited.
Joined by some of the family members of those who are still trapped in the debris, those who are still trapped inside the tunnel. Will speak to them. They are here since last evening, since the time they got to know that this tragedy has taken place. Sir, आपका नाम?
मेरा नाम सुरेंद्र सिंह भंडारी।
सुरेंद्र जी, आपके परिवार का कौन है अंदर जो अभी फंसा हुआ है, और फोर्सेस की ओर से आपको क्या जवाब दिया जा रहा है?
मेरे खुद ही बच्चा है, छोटा वाला है।
आपका बच्चा है?
हाँ, बच्चा है, फिर भतीजा है, दो भतीजे हैं।
हाँ।
अरविंद है, रोहित है।
हाँ।
रोहित अकेला लड़का है।
कल से कुछ पता नहीं है?
कल से कोई पता ही नहीं है।
फोन लग रहा है टनल के अंदर?
कोई फोन नहीं लग रहा। कुछ नहीं लग रहा।
तो दोनों यहाँ क्या काम करते थे?
ये सप्लाई में काम करते हैं, तीनों
सप्लाई में काम करते हैं। आपके परिवार का कोई फंसा है?
सर मेरा भाई फंसा है, छोटा भाई फंसा
हुआ है।
आपका
भाई फंसा है? अच्छा, क्या काम करता था
वो? सर ये पानी के उसमें था, सप्लाई में।
हाँ।
और लेकिन कल से हम आए हुए हैं, लेकिन काम बता रहे हैं, अब बताएंगे किस समय बता रहे हैं। 100 मीटर हो गया, किस समय
बता रहे हैं कि कुछ 30 से 35 लोग अंदर अभी भी फंसे हुए हैं।
इस समय बता रहे हैं 50-60 लोग हैं। कोई अनुमान नहीं बता रहे हैं।
कोई अनुमान नहीं बता रहे हैं। क्या नाम है आपके भाई?
उसका नाम सर सतेश्वर प्रसाद पुरोहित है। मेरा नाम लक्ष्मी प्रसाद पुरोहित है।
फोन लग रहा है?
फोन नहीं लग रहा सर।
दीपक टमटा, सिविल इंजीनियर है।
सिविल इंजीनियर है। कल से कोई पता नहीं?
कोई पता नहीं है सर। कल से हम इन्हें परेशान हो गए। शासन पर कल सीएम भी आए थे यहाँ पे। हाँ। लेकिन यहाँ पे कुछ नहीं था। 10 बजे आपदा आ गई थी, 12-1 बजे आए सीएम यहाँ पे। तो लेकिन जब सीएम आए तब यहाँ पे जनता जुड़ी, मतलब लोग तो थे यहाँ पे पहले सब, लेकिन ये मशीनें देखो ना, आप देखो ना सामने वो है आर्मी की मशीनें लगी हुई, एनटीपीसी प्रोजेक्ट है, एसटीसी प्रोजेक्ट है, कोई मशीनें नहीं होंगी, कोई वो नहीं है कि मतलब टनल कितने
अच्छा, देरी का आप इल्जाम लगा रहे हैं।
देरी है।
आपको कब पता लगा कि लापता है और फोन नहीं लग रहा है?
जैसे ही ये डैम बाढ़ आई, जब हमको पता चला कि हमारा भाई वहाँ पे है, तो हम सब एकत्र हो गए। हमने कहा भाई फोन लगाया, ये क्या वो क्या, लेकिन फोन तो लगा नहीं।
Right now, it's also important to bring in a perspective of what happened in court basis a PIL that was put in a couple of years back, and this is in 2019. Even though several voices from within the government and including the chief minister there who's already said it's wrong to be pointing fingers right now at developmental projects or allege that these are the development projects that caused this disaster. But it's still important to help you understand what happened in court here in 2019. There was a petition that was filed in by concerned local residents here, and this was against the RISHIGANGA hydroelectric power project. Remember, this is one of the worst affected sites in the epicenter of this disaster, where this power project is, which was washed away during this flash flood, glacier burst, in fact, which led to this sudden rising in water. Let's tell you what happened here in the concerns that the locals raised in this petition. They were against the firm in constructing the project here. The firm was accused of unfair, hazardous methods that were used, such as using explosives here to blast mountains for mining. Remember, by law, it is not allowed to be using explosives in this area. There are several sensitive areas around the Nanda Devi biosphere that were damaged here because of the manner in which construction was carried out. Also, the river bed, which is a very tender structure, it needs to be porous as is found naturally to encourage life forms to survive there. Now, that riverbed was affected as well because stone crushing took place at the riverbed. The project's waste then was unmercilessly dumped into the RISHIGANGA valley, the RISHIGANGA river, and there was no action that was taken on the complaints here that were sent in by the residents. And these were the observations that were made by court as well, since this was a matter that had reached the Uttarakhand High Court, and the High Court there said that the use of explosives may result in destruction, the use of explosives that is banned in the area, and officials were asked to inspect the project site basis the allegations. But the firm involved in this project was eventually exonerated here because there was no proof or there was no evidence here found of any illegal means here that was used for the construction. This, of course, this is just a question of, in hindsight, whether we can really learn what really are the big learnings. But also remember here, have there been any big learnings from the 2013 massive disaster? We're looking at yet another disaster in Uttarakhand in the given area. So let's throw this open now to our panelists tonight. We have Mr. Vinay Goyal, who's the spokesperson of the BJP with us, Mr. Kishore Upadhyay, senior leader of the Uttarakhand Congress. Is Professor Anil Kulkarni with us this evening, glaciologist and scientist at the Devecha Center for Climate Change, IISc Bengaluru. Professor Etsi Nainiwal, glaciologist from the given at the given area and studying the concerned terrain here, Hemavati Nandan, Bahuguna Garhwal University in Uttarakhand. And Ms. Malika Bhanot with us here as well, who's a member of the Ganga Ahvan. First to you, Ms. Malika Bhanot, let's start with what you've observed here and the list of concerns that you have continued to raise in the past 24 hours. Looking at this in hindsight on which projects could have been stalled midway, where the development efforts could have been slowed down to prevent this from happening, because there's something could possibly be prevented to what happened yesterday.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it would be the worst thing right now would be to say that this is nature's fury or it's a natural disaster, because this has been something which has been indicated by the environmentalists, by the people working on ground since several years. I mean, in 2013, Supreme Court took suo motu cognizance, and Supreme Court order of 2013 by Justice Radhakrishnan uses the word mushrooming. Mushrooming of hydropower projects in the state of Uttarakhand was all set out to be investigated. And this hydropower project, RISHIGANGA hydropower projects, subsequently Tapovan, Vishnugad, People Koti, all of these hydropower projects, it's a whole network. You have to understand that what the Uttarakhand government has actually envisaged in their own aspect of development is a network of hydropower projects which are bumper to bumper. Now, these bumper to bumper projects leave no room for the river to breathe. Forget whatever that they are doing to the river. You have to understand that the whole terrain of these areas is extremely fragile. I mean, look at the valley right now. You're showing in the video. Look how narrow and how closed-ended this valley is. Now, in such a valley, when debris comes down, when glacier comes down, or anything of this effect, a cloudburst, which is a very common phenomena in the hills, come down, you tell me how, if this devastation would not happen, what will happen? It has to be a very well thought, sustainable model of development. There has to be cumulative impact assessment. You cannot isolate one hydropower project and say, "Arey, we are only building 13 megawatt, so therefore this is development." No, but that 13 megawatt is being built in a valley which is narrow. It is being built in paraglacial zone. It is being built in an earthquake sensitive zone, in a landslide prone zone, and it is being preceded by so many activities in the area. Whether it is road widening activity in the Badrinath area, whether there is increased tourism that you see in Uttarakhand, whether you see mining that you have also spoken about, or the other hydropower project construction. These are close-ended valleys. You cannot isolate one valley and just say that impact is happening only there. No, the effect always resonates. Rishiganga Valley has affected Dhauliganga, Dhauliganga has affected Alaknanda. You have to understand the resonance of it.
All right. So this is, of course, a chain reaction as you're explaining here. And remember, while there are already a huge number of dams existing, 16 dams existing in the area, and there are another 13 under construction. So is this the final sign which should tell our governments halt? We don't need so many, as Malika said, bumper-to-bumper dams being built here on our rivers, particularly in the hilly terrain here. Professor Nainwal, basis on what the Chief Minister has just said here, which was earlier in the earlier theory of the past 24 hours, largely believed perhaps a glacier caving in, and that came in a huge shocking note that this is, of course, a very, very big sign of climate change. Glaciers are collapsing mid-winter here. But now the Chief Minister says satellite images have been scrutinized and this is a case of a landslide. What changes on ground, irrespective of the reason of these floods?
It may be possible that this particular tragedy maybe happened due to some of the landslide dam. But if you see some of the, you can say, remote sensing images, so it looks like that it is due to the avalanches. The more possibility is that there are a lot of avalanches, snow avalanches, in the Rishiganga Valley, in the upper stream, where 7 or 8 major glaciers having the area of more than 10 square kilometers. So from, you can say, downstream the snout of the glacier. Snout means from where the river is going to be emerged. So there are not only these 6 or 7 glaciers, but some rock glacier, large number of the rock glaciers. They are the smaller in size. They are also there. So if you see the snowfall data, so from 1st to 5th of February, there is a lot of snowfall on that area. And probably due to this huge snowfall, the number of snow avalanche zone, they have been activated and they have carried out a lot of mass, you can say snow, fresh snow into the valley. And probably there will be a local damming because we have not seen any type of the lake there, but possibly some local damming will be there. And after that, it has been the burst out, resulting into the flash flood in the downstream area. So these all things will be confirmed once we will visit the site. And these all are, you can say, preliminary data, whatever that we are receiving at this end. And based on this, we can say this is basically the avalanche, say snow avalanches, and which are probably responsible for such type of the devastation in Rishiganga Valley.
Right. Professor Kulkarni here, as I also asked Professor Nainwal, irrespective of what caused it, in your view, once again, I mean, there were big learnings from 2013. We looked away from it, governments moved on and announcing multiple more projects here in the given areas where environmental concerns were completely thrown off the window here, irrespective of what other environmentalists or petitioners had raised in court here as well. irrespective of this is happening because of global warming or this is happening because of instability that we've seen in existing structures there, at the end of the day, we were continuing to build in and develop and occupy areas as humans that we shouldn't. We were literally putting ourselves up against the force of nature and the route of nature, the route that rivers take in the wake of these disasters.
So is it question to me? Hello?
Yes, Professor Kulkarni, this is for you, please.
That's right. It is not fair for me to comment on the comment made by political leadership, but I would like to say my scientific understanding of this issue. I am looking into this issue last couple of days, yesterday and today, to understand what actually the flash flood has caused. And some of the ideas which Dr. Nainwal or some other people are trying to say is avalanches. My own understanding is this is very unlikely reason for the flash flood. We have here in Indian Institute of France developed a new technique to map the lakes below the glacier bed. That means you have a certain amount of thickness of ice, and below that there is a depression, and that depression is we can map by using some of the techniques which we have developed here at Indian Institute of Science. So since yesterday we were running the computer simulation model to understand what is the reason, and we have realized that the Nanda Devi Glacier, terminus region of Nanda Devi Glacier, where ice is generally exposed on the surface, but this is a winter time where snow is completely covered, has a huge underground depression or a lake. And our analysis suggests that it is approximately 25 hectares of lake was below the glacier ice, and which can store as much as 4.5 million cubic meter of water in it. We have done this illustration. We understand that is the major cause for this flash flood, and rather than the idea that avalanches or landslide has caused that. It is essentially because this is a common phenomena in a glacier terrain where such lakes are formed. But in this particular case, this is not visible on the surface. So many people will miss it, that they will not. So it is my own assessment that this flash flood is caused because of the existence of the huge lake inside the glacial body, which our model could able to map it. And this is very common because of the global climate change. It has probably nothing to do with the local developments which is taking place. A disaster, its effect is a different story, but since climate is changing, we already know that mountainous regions are experiencing higher climate change compared to the plains or compared to the peninsular part of India. And because of that, glaciers are retreating, glaciers are losing mass. So the more and more such lakes will be formed in future. So we definitely need a synergy between the scientific community and political leadership and administrative authorities of the state to overcome and understand these issues.
Professor, appreciate you helping us understand that the larger workings of what perhaps caused this flood here. Let's now, of course, get in political voices. We've spoken to all the experts here, but the expectations, of course, are from the government. The government and the concerned political parties to act in time. Mr. Kishore Upadhyay was the senior leader of the Uttarakhand Congress here with us. Mr. Upadhyay, in your view, what should have been done in 2013, which was at a time there was the Congress government in power in the state. Now we, of course, we have leaderships that have changed here, but irrespective, there should have been corrective measures with respect to halting certain projects and striking a balance. What is imperative to build versus what is not, versus what can be avoided?
No, if you would like to, I would like to speak in Hindi, if you permit me. Hello.
जी जरूर.
Hello. Yeah. So I will be able to explain the things more deeply. जी. मैं अभी मल्लिका जी को भी सुन रहा था और मैंने अभी कुलकर्णी साहब और नैनवाल साहब को भी सुना. हमारे जो बहुत ही विद्वान कलीग हैं अभी भाजपा की तरफ से, और मुझे आप कांग्रेस या किसी पार्टी के उससे न लीजिए. हमने और मल्लिका जी ने बहुत लंबे समय तक जो गंगा और हिमालय के इशूज़ हैं उन पर काम किया है. ये बहुत ही दुखद घटना है और इसमें जो लोग दिवंगत हो गए मैं उनको अपनी श्रद्धांजलि देता हूँ. लेकिन मुझे ये लगता है कि हम लोग हिमालय को समझते नहीं हैं. मैं तो गांव में पैदा हुआ किसान के घर में, और मैंने पहले भी इस तरह की त्रासदी देखी. अगर आप मालपा में चले जाइए उस समय जो हुआ, हमारे यहाँ दुगड्डा में हुआ, उसमें तो बहुत सी गाड़ियाँ बह गई थी. आप देखिए 92 में जो उत्तरकाशी का जो भूकंप आया, 1999 में जो चमोली में हुआ, जहाँ ये आज एक घटना हुई है. आप 2010 में चले आइए, जिस तरह की बाढ़ आई थी और टेरी बांध पर खतरा पैदा हो गया था, क्योंकि मैं टेरी का रहने वाला हूँ और टेरी बांध जो है मेरे कोर, जो मेरी कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी है उसका हिस्सा है. और उसके बाद 2013 पर आप आ जाइए. मुझे ये लगता है कि जो हुआ इतिहास में हमने उससे कोई सबक नहीं लिया है. और ये जो रैनी गांव है जिसने पूरी देश और दुनिया को पर्यावरण के बारे में एक नई दृष्टि दी है, ये गौरा देवी जी का गांव है जहां से चिपको आंदोलन शुरू हुआ. मैं भी वहां पर वनाधिकार का जो हमारा मसला चल रहा है उसको लेकर के मैं रैनी गांव गया था, और उस समय उन लोगों ने बहुत सी बातें वहां पर जो ये काम चल रहा है उसके बारे में मुझे कहीं, मैंने सरकार को कहा भी, और जो स्थानीय जनता है वो उसके खिलाफ थी. जब जनता खिलाफ है, जब कोर्ट खिलाफ है
जी,
और जब सारे के सारे जो हमारे पर्यावरणविद हैं वो जब उसके खिलाफ हैं, तो ये सवाल, इस सवाल का जवाब देना चाहिए सरकार को कि उसके बावजूद भी आपने जो है ये काम क्यों जो है शुरू किया है. और मुझे ये लगता है कि अगर आज नहीं संभले तो ये खाली रैनी गांव की बात नहीं है, ऋषिगंगा की बात नहीं है. ये भविष्य में बड़ा भारी खतरा जो है वो हम सब के ऊपर मंडरा रहा है. मैं इस समय बॉम्बे में हूँ. यहाँ पर भी अगर हिमालय की बर्फ़ पिघल जाए तो ये क्या आपका मुंबई बचा रहेगा? सबसे बड़ी बात है कि आपने मिडिल हिमालय के लिए, जब मैं और सुंदरलाल बहुगुणा जी जम्मू कश्मीर से लेकर के अरुणाचल प्रदेश तक जब हिमालय बचाओ आंदोलन चला रहे थे, उस समय भी लोग समझ नहीं पाए कि हम असली में कहना क्या चाहते हैं. जब तक देखिए हिमालय के लिए एक सतत समावेशी विकास की नीति नहीं बनेगी, इंक्लूसिव सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट की पॉलिसी नहीं बनेगी मेरे विचार से, तब तक आप इस तरह की घटनाओं को रोक नहीं सकते हैं, जो सबसे बड़ी बात है. और उसमें आप देखिए कि जब हम उत्तराखंड राज्य के आंदोलन में जब हम राज्य भी मांग रहे थे, उसका भी मैं फाउंडर सिपाही रहा हूँ, तो तब भी हमने यही कहा था कि आपको बचाने के लिए हमें अलग राज्य चाहिए जिससे हिमालय का नियोजन ठीक हो सके. तो ये सबसे बड़ी नियोजन की और जो लालच की बात है, आप ये छोटे छोटे या बड़े वाले जो बांध बना रहे हैं, ये लालच जो ठेकेदारी का लालच है, जो कैपिटलिस्ट हैं उनका लालच है. मेरे ख्याल से बिजली के तो आपके पास बहुत से संसाधन हैं जिनसे आप बिजली पैदा कर सकते हैं, तो उस पर नए तरीके से सोचने की ज़रूरत है. और इस तरह से अगर वहाँ जो ज़मीन है, जो भूमि, अगर उसका अच्छा रंग होता रहा तो भविष्य में हो सकता है, मेरे जीवन में नहीं लेकिन आगे जो है आप हिमालय को एक रॉक डेजर्ट में कन्वर्ट होते हुए देखेंगे. जो गंगोत्री है उसके ऊपर अगर आप देखेंगे तो सारा का सारा पहाड़ जो है रॉक डेजर्ट में कन्वर्ट हो गया है. तो मेरे विचार से नए दृष्टिकोण के साथ जो है उसको देखने की ज़रूरत है. जी.
Mr. Vinay Goyal, spokesperson of the BJP here with us, please respond here, because it is largely the BJP in charge of the state, in charge of the central government here, irrespective of where certain clearances are coming from in the hill areas, in the hill states, which follow slightly different rules. Environmental clearances that come in from the central government, that also specifically come in from state government here. But since we have the BJP in charge in both places, what can be the corrective measures? There are a lot of ambitious projects here that have been launched in the name of development here, but it's clear that we're not striking a balance. Where is the full stop? Where is the screeching halt that needs to be made right now?
मैं भी हिंदी में ही बोलना चाहूंगा। अभी बहुत ही विद्वान पैनलिस्ट हमारे सारे यहाँ हैं, सबने अपने अपने कंसर्न जाहिर किए और आदरणीय किशोर उपाध्याय जी ने भी अपने अनुभव के साथ साथ सारे विषयों को रखा है। लेकिन आज जिस प्रकार की दुर्घटना घटी है उसके बाद इस प्रकार के प्रश्न उठना स्वाभाविक है। लेकिन मैं ये आपको याद दिलाना चाहता हूं कि जब टिहरी बांध का निर्माण हो रहा था तो उस समय भी इसी प्रकार के सारे प्रश्न उठ रहे थे और सारी आशंकाएं उठाई जा रही थी। लेकिन आज अगर जहां ये दुखद घटना हुई है वहां एक विषय ये भी सामने आया है कि आज अगर हमारा बचाव हुआ है तो टिहरी बांध की वजह से हुआ है। वहां पर हमने जिस प्रकार से पानी को रोका है, जिस प्रकार से हमारे वैज्ञानिकों ने और हमारे सारे लोगों ने काम किया है, उसके कारण से आज हमारा बचाव हो पाया है। तो और जिस प्रकार से 2013 की घटना है वो एक क्लाउड बर्स्ट की घटना थी। आज अभी जो घटना घटी है इसके बारे में अभी मैं दूसरे चैनल पे एक डिबेट में था, वहां मेरे साथ वाडिया इंस्टीट्यूट के डायरेक्टर साहब डिबेट में थे, तो उनका कहना यह था कि ये अभी तय नहीं है कि ये एवलांच है या लैंडस्लाइड है। तो मुझे लगता है कि अभी थोड़ा जल्दी होगा इन सारे विषयों पर चर्चा करना। हमारे सारे जो वैज्ञानिक लोगों की टीम भी यहाँ से गई है वो भी आ जाए तो उनकी और जिस प्रकार से वहां पर सिल्ट आई है तो मुझे लगता है इतनी ज्यादा सिल्ट आना तो
विनय गोयल जी, ये जल्दी तो नहीं होगा, because the larger understanding is we've missed the bus in respecting what the environment says to us in keeping our boundaries. ये जल्दी का तो डिस्कशन नहीं है, ये बहुत देर में हम डिस्कशन कर रहे हैं डिजास्टर आफ्टर डिजास्टर। अगर 2014 में केंद्र सरकार मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट MOEF ने अगर सबमिट किया, आप प्लीज ये थोड़ा सा एक फैक्ट सुनिए। इन द ईयर 2014 द MOEF सबमिटेड एन एफिडेविट सेइंग दैट कि 2013 का जो फ्लड था उत्तराखंड में, it was escalated directly, indirectly because of multiple under construction of existing hydro projects. तब भी मल्टीपल हाइड्रो प्रोजेक्ट्स पे कोई रुकाव नहीं आया। आपके सबमिशन, आपके केंद्र सरकार के सबमिशन के बावजूद ऑन ग्राउंड हाइड्रो प्रोजेक्ट कंस्ट्रक्शन पे कोई रुकाव नहीं आया, बल्कि 13-14 और हाइड्रो प्रोजेक्ट्स क्लियर किए गए उस एरिया के लिए।
नहीं, देखिए मैं यही बात कह रहा हूं कि चाहे प्रदेश में ये कोई राजनीति का विषय नहीं है, चाहे किशोर उपाध्याय जी के पार्टी की सरकार रही हो, चाहे भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार रही हो, विकास के प्रति सबकी भूख रही है। सब चाहते हैं कि प्रदेश का विकास हो और विकास के लिए ही उत्तराखंड राज्य बना था। लेकिन जब इस प्रकार की दुर्घटनाएं हो जाती हैं तो प्रश्न खड़े होने लगते हैं और मुझे लगता है कि निश्चित रूप से जो आदमी की सुरक्षा है वो पहला विषय है, लेकिन साथ ही साथ विकास को भी हम अलग नहीं कर सकते। और विकास के साथ साथ जिस प्रकार की घटनाएं देखने में आ रही हैं, अगर जैसे माननीय किशोर उपाध्याय जी ने बताया कि 1992 में जिस प्रकार से भूकंप की घटना हुई हमारे साथ, 1999 में अलग प्रकार की घटना हुई, 2013 में अलग प्रकार की घटना हुई और ये अलग प्रकार की घटना है। तो ये कोई हम ये नहीं कह सकते कि किसी की एक प्रकार की घटनाएं यहाँ रिपीटेडली हो रही हो। तो मुझे लगता है कि जिस प्रकार की जो बड़ी घटनाओं की मैं बात कर रहा हूं कि जो तीन एक प्रकार से जो उत्तरकाशी का भूकंप था, जो हमारा केदारनाथ जी की जो आपदा थी, या जो ये अब जो आपदा आई है, ये तीनों आपदाओं की प्रकृति बिल्कुल अलग अलग है। तो मुझे लगता है कि हमें, जो मैंने कहा कि थोड़ा जो ताजा विषय है उसके बारे में जब तक पूरी जानकारी आ जाए तब हम और विस्तार से इसमें चर्चा कर सकते हैं।
ओके जी, किशोर उपाध्याय जी, विनती यही है कि that we look at this with a slightly different perspective, because no one is arguing that we caused a cloudburst or our activities caused a glacier sliding in, a glacier caving in. We haven't caused that, but the repercussions is that we are constructing in the root of forces of nature where construction should not be happening, which is why the losses to us, the human loss, increases year after year, because we have constructed into areas where we shouldn't be inhabiting right now, where the signs are very clear that we shouldn't be here. Malika Bhanot, would you like to respond to that one point that Kishore Upadhyay here has raised? The loss of lives has been far less in this tragedy because of these dams which have stopped the water from entering certain areas that could have been far more devastating.
Yes, this was exactly the point that I actually wanted to raise when ये गोयल जी ने ये point रखा था. पहले तो गोयल जी शायद आप confuse हो गए, 2013 की आपदा में आप लोगों ने टिहरी बांध ने ये आपदा रोकी है, तब आपने ये वाला aspect use किया था. उसका भी मैं आपको reason बता देती हूँ. पहले तो आज अभी अलकनंदा घाटी में बाढ़ आई है. टिहरी बांध जो है आपका वो भागीरथी घाटी का है. So I don't understand that how is it that Tirhi has saved us this time. Number one. Number two, the point is that the point is this is winters. ये सर्दियां हैं, नदियों में पानी नहीं है. अगर यही एक्टिविटी, अगर यही इवेंट आपका मई के महीने में होता या जून के महीने में होता या अगस्त के महीने में होता, तो यहाँ पे जो लोग हैं जो काम कर रहे हैं, जो आपके कार्यकर्ता हैं, जो आप लोग के तपोवन विष्णु गार्ड में ये जो काम कर रहे हैं, जो आज दबे हैं, इसके साथ मल्टीपल लाइव्स जाती हैं जो आपके टूरिस्ट जो आते हैं चार धाम एरिया में काम करने के लिए. सो प्लीज डू नॉट टेक दिस लाइटली. अ डेवलपमेंट कैन नॉट बी एट द कॉस्ट ऑफ पीपल्स लाइव्स. ओके, अब जहां तक रही विकास की नीतियों की बात, आपका उत्तराखंड क्लाइमेट चेंज एक्शन टेकन रिपोर्ट है 2019 का. आप उसके प्लीज एक बार उसका एक अध्ययन करिए अच्छे से. ये हम नहीं कह रहे, ये कोर्ट नहीं कह रहा, उत्तराखंड का क्लाइमेट चेंज एक्शन टेकन रिपोर्ट कह रही है कि हमने इतना ज्यादा विकास कर दिया है दैट वी हैव ऑलरेडी रीच्ड अ थ्रेशोल्ड पॉइंट. बद्रीनाथ की कैरिंग कैपेसिटी ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्टिंग टूरिस्ट से थ्रेशोल्ड पे पहुंच चुकी है. बावजूद इसके यू आर वाइडनिंग द रोड एंड यू आर ट्राइंग टू इंक्रीज द कैरिंग कैपेसिटी ऑफ द एरिया विच द एनवायरमेंट कैन नॉट सस्टेन. I mean, I have multiple examples हैं कि किस तरीके से पर्यावरण का दोहन हो रहा है और दोहन के कारण कितना सारा नुकसान हो रहा है. पिछले 2018 से लेकर 2020 तक आप भूल जाइए कि अभी क्या हुआ, वो तो आपका असेसमेंट होएगा तब पता चलेगा. पर 2018 से 2020 तक चार धाम परियोजना हो रही है, रोड वाइडनिंग एक्टिविटी हो रही है. You are widening the road to 10 meters when your own circular says, Ministry of Road Transport says कि 5.5 मीटर से ज्यादा सड़क हमें पहाड़ों में बनानी नहीं चाहिए. तो भी आप गलत तरीके से 10 मीटर चौड़ी सड़क बना रहे हैं और कितने ही लोग दब के मर गए हैं. उनके बारे में क्या? ये आज की त्रासदी है क्योंकि ये डैमेज हुआ है, so that the media is also now sensitized to this aspect. But you have to see which area are we talking about. These landslides are happening every now and then. I have to tell you this, that what Uttarakhand government does is कि जहां पर ये कोई भी एक्टिविटी नहीं होती है और नहीं होनी चाहिए, then Uttarakhand government says it is very much required for strategic reasons. National defense security. सर आप बताइए, डिजास्टर रेजिलियंट बॉर्डर्स होने चाहिए कि नहीं? आज आपका रैनी गांव का वो ब्रिज बह गया है, अब आप जाइए बॉर्डर पे, बॉर्डर डिस्कनेक्ट हो गया आपका. You have made the entire country vulnerable. Environment protection in this state is not luxury, it is necessity. Please understand this.
All right. So, Malika, I'm going to take some of your points here that you've raised to Professor Nainwal as well. And this is, of course, Professor Nainwal, rest assured, this is irrespective of raising concerns against or for one political party. This is largely in getting informed voices such as you, in declaring perhaps where the concerned governments needs to strike that balance, whether it's about constructing multiple hydro project plants here, as Malika explained so well, bumper to bumper. I mean, that's perhaps the best way to emphasize on the scale of disaster that we're looking at. If dams on rivers are bumper to bumper, or whether it's about widening of roads and multiple widening of roads, do we really need that right now in this terrain? Should that be a pressing concern, to have wide roads instead of perhaps just making do with a two-lane road or a 3-lane road,
Or
perhaps, not 6 lanes?
A disaster resilient road. That's what I am emphasizing on. Road should be strengthened, but it has to be disaster resilient.
Let's have Professor
It cannot
Nainwal
be
on this.
disaster prone. I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is what I want.
Yeah. Regarding the construction of the road, actually it is not important what is the, you can say, width of the road. It is more important if you are not doing stabilization, you are not doing the slope stabilization work, then even you are, whether it is a narrow road or whether it is a wider road, they will always be in the landslide prone road. So it is better if you are constructing any road. I am not going for what will be the actual width of the road. It was the actual expert who can say whether it is 5.5 meter or it is more than that one. But the very important thing is that we have to stabilize the slope. So that is one of the need for the road construction. The secondly, what my senior colleague, Professor Kulkarni, said that there is a big depression inside of the glacier, and they have doing such a model study. We definitely welcome such type of the study. And I think it is better, it is early to say what is the root cause of that problem. But once we will do the field validation, then it will be, I think, right time to say what is the major cause of that one. I would like to share one of the information. In 2008, I am still working on the Satupant Glacier. On that time, the similar incidents has been occurred there in the Bhagnu Bank. It is a very small glacier, and it is on the, you can say, left side of the valley, of the Alaknanda Valley. So the similar type of the thing has been happened, and a smaller lake has been developed in the Lakshmi Ban area. And after, you can say, 2 or 3 days, it has been bridged out. And there is a very smaller devastation in the Mana area. But nobody has noticed that one. Even we have given, we have published this also, that such type of the thing has been happened. So I think these things are common in Himalayas. Basically, the avalanche prone, such type of the hazards, they are very common in the Himalayan terrain. Now, thus, one of the things you have told about some construction of the various types of dams. So I will give one of the examples, that is the JP Barrage, which is near about the Gobind Ghat, and it has been washed away during the 2013. On the same time when this Kedarnath tragedy has happened. But this was only due to a very, you can say, large cloudburst in the, you can say, this RISHIGANGA, Khirganga Valley in that area. So it was a very big dam. It was a
So Professor Nainwal, I get the gist of what you're saying, that these are minute observations that are being made by experts such as you, but still need to be part of the larger discourse. And the larger discourse would mean to have the government on board here. Professor Kulkarni, final remark here for tonight from you. With respect to governments not keeping track of what climate change can do. If there is a fear that a glacier today has caved in mid-winters, that there are fears that rainfalls are getting heavier, and the window and the amount of rainfall that we get, or perhaps we're getting in one entire season, even for our big metros, we're getting it just in a couple of days, which is why cities are unable to handle it. So if we have ministries already established and working, the Ministry of Environment, are more focused on giving clearances to development projects rather than preventing development in areas which shouldn't be done right now, being sensitive of climate changes that have accelerated today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm not sure that preventing any development activity is a solution to this problem. The more important thing is to have a better synergy between the scientific community, political leadership, and the administration and the society in large, to make sure that we can really have we can reasonably manage the issues which are going to come as climate is changing. And as I was saying earlier, this is the one case which is very unique case of flash flood. But our earlier study suggests that there are such 26 moraine glacier lakes in Alaknanda Basin. So it is not the only one lake which has caused, or whatever may be the reason. Some are saying it is because of landslide, but it is caused by that. But it is potentially a major issue for all Himalayan states, not only in Uttarakhand, but also in Sikkim. There could be a major issue in Arunachal Pradesh. It is major issue in Himachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. So we have to have a robust scientific investigation to understand and flag those issues which is going to come, and the sensitive political and administrative leadership to take this further to ensure that such issues are handled, and there are good examples of happening that.
So I'm going to leave with that thought here. Professor, appreciate you saying that, but I'm so sorry, all of us, all of our experts here for being with us. We're entirely out of time, but the big takeaway and the big thought to stay with us here is to have that synergy, with environmental scientists and experts, with the government. We cannot be existing in silos. Locals are raising concerns, courts are raising concerns, but sometimes the government is not listening. And this is where silos need to be broken down, and we need to have the synergy for our own good, for our own survival, to save lives. Thank you for being with us here tonight.